What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network, live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. I am Fatboy Bo, as you can see, riding solo tonight. Had to pay Brant back for his solo episode he put out last week. Scheduling conflicts on my end. I apologize to everybody for that. Hopefully the Fat Boys are back together next week. Fatboy Bo did buy a golf membership this year, and I had to have initiation into my club this year or tonight. So that was the reason for the late episode, for those of you that are wondering. And that's the reason Brant isn't here, because our schedules just didn't line up, because I couldn't go at regular time tonight. So that one's on me. I got to eat that. Typically not a problem for me to eat. But anyway, I'm going to come at you guys this week. Brant came at you with a few prospects last week. We do have some stuff that we're working on coming at you in the coming weeks, with some quarterback rankings and things of that nature. But, you know, if you're like me, you really stay hyped up for football almost year round, whether it be fantasy relevant or, just you bleed your teams and you just ride and die on that couch on Sunday with your team playing. But right now it's a little bit of a lull. The high of, the free agent period is kind of dwindled. There hasn't been any really crazy news the last couple of days. A lot of the big names have either fallen early or haven't fallen at all. We've still got some wide receivers out there with some fantasy potential. The combine has come and taken place. Got some stuff leading up to it for the draft. Obviously, we're getting a little bit closer, inching there. But again, as a Falcons fan, I'm not that excited about the draft this year. We clearly don't have a pick. Brant, I know he was struggling a little bit this year too, winning the Super Bowl. How do you struggle after your team wins the Super Bowl? But not drafting until the last pick of the first definitely has put a damper on his excitement for the draft as well. I'd love to have that feeling as a Falcons fan. Can't say I ever will, but I digress. But anyway, so I was kind of thinking about, what do I want to put out for my solo episode tonight? Because I'm doing some research on these prospects for fantasy perspective, but I'm not as into it as I have been in years past, just because my Falcons don't really have a chance at getting anybody, of a skill position at all. And on top of that, it's just life's lifing right now, right? So I really wanted to sit down and bring you guys something that I could get myself passionate about tonight, something that I could actually, get in on. And hey, I can't help it. I'm a degenerate when it comes to trading. Trading's my thing. That's my bread and butter. I make a lot of trades in all my leagues, stay competitive. And so I always try to look for those guys that I can buy low on that will have high returns, whether it be I buy low now and I get, some camp hype that I can potentially sell these guys for, pennies, or buy them for pennies on the dollar and sell them for dollars on the penny. A little bit later on in training camp. And I really kind of dove into some guys that I really, really like a lot, that I think have come out of the free agency period. Obviously, the draft could change these things, but that's why we're trying to trade for these guys now. But these are some names that I'm really intrigued by after the way free agency has panned out. And I really think, like the show said, the description of the show says, these are guys that you can buy now that are going to help you a lot come August, I believe, when we get the actual NFL season going. And one I'm more so excited about rather than the other one. So I'll start with the one that I'm as excited about, but he's going to cost you a little bit more. And that's Quinshon Judkins of the Cleveland Browns. This guy was having a really good rookie season last year. We know the Browns are kind of a dumpster fire. Obviously, the broken leg took place with Quinshon Judkins down the stretch. He is expected to be ready for training camp. So it points to all things being good to go to start the season for him. So if you can, first of all, if you can find in your league where somebody's willing to sell him on a discount because they're scared of that leg injury, even better. Brant and I have mentioned it on the show before. But one of the things that we always do when we go look at trades and guys we're interested in trading for, not because it's a benchmark or not because it's the absolute going rate, but we like to go on Dynasty Daddy. There's a huge trade database. You search any player in the league, and you can see what some of the recent trades these guys have gone for and what their current prices are in the real world, right? They're getting these trades from multiple platforms that you guys are probably on and using, and your trades are on there. I'm telling you, if you've made a trade on Sleeper or ESPN or Yahoo, it's going to Dynasty Daddy. I've seen my trades on there, a couple hours after I've made them as well. So these are real life values for these guys right now. So again, Quinshon Judkins going into his second year, he obviously does have Dylan Sampson there to keep some healthy competition. Still don't really know what the quarterback position is going to look like in Cleveland next year. New head coach in town in Todd Monken, who acted like he was excited about Shedeur. We'll see if that happens. But anyway, I do expect Quinshon Judkins to be a big piece of this Browns offense next year. I think, for that matter, I think Dylan Sampson will be as well. But if I can get Judkins for some of these prices that he's going for right now, I'm salivating at it. Number one, straight up Quinshon Judkins, and all it cost you is Rome Odunze. I know Rome has had some highlights, had some high moments where it's like, hey, he's the real deal. But running backs kind of seem harder to get right now, and we don't really know whether it's going to be Rome or Luther Burden or Colston Loveland in that offense next year. Anyway, I think it'll be a healthy mix of all three of those guys. But I'd rather have a running back that I genuinely think is going to go for 1,000 yards and 10+ touchdowns on the ground next year. Obviously, we'll see how high I can get him into my rankings when we get to that point. But I genuinely do think if you're asking me straight up, if I'm the Rome Odunze owner and I can get Quinshon Judkins for the price of Rome Odunze, I'm shipping Rome out. I'm taking Judkins. Wide receivers seem to be a dime a dozen. Getting a decent top 10 running back is a much harder feat. So that is one of the current prices. Again, these are all trades that have happened today for Quinshon Judkins. The other one is Jameson Williams and a second-round pick. I'm doing that all day long. All day long. Jameson Williams is the ultimate feast or famine player. I typically don't let those guys live in my lineup. When they hit, it's really fun, but when they hang you a zero, you're stuck holding the bag. Jameson Williams at best is a really good flex play because at the flex position, if I get points out of it, I'm hoping to get 10+ points out of my flex position, but anything more than that, I'm happy. So I'd be less upset with a zero there. But Jameson Williams over Quinshon Judkins to get rid of Jameson Williams and get Judkins in return again. To me, that running back position, the disparity there is just a little bit to where I'd rather have Judkins. And then the last one, again, not saying this is the going rate, not saying you're going to be able to get this trade done in your league. Omari and Hampton straight up for Judkins and 2 first-round picks in 2027. One pick in 2027, one in 2028, so 2 first total. Again, I don't see there being that big of a difference between Omari and Hampton and Quinshon Judkins. So if you're telling me I can get Judkins back and the 2 firsts, that to me is a trade that I'm very, very interested in doing. Again, I think Judkins is one of those guys that he's going to have, somewhere in the 1,000 rush yards, 10+ touchdowns. This guy actually proved his worth a little bit last year as a pass catching back as well. I want to say prior to his injury, it seemed like Judkins was probably a potentially more pass catching type of running back, that prowess, if you will. However, Judkins ended up having, let's see here, 36 targets, 26 receptions, 171 yards, no touchdowns. So again, next year, it wouldn't shock me to see him at 300 yards receiving and a couple touchdowns as well. In that Browns offense over the course of a full season if he stays healthy. So again, you're talking about 1,300 total yards and 13 touchdowns. That's pretty important numbers to have in my lineup there. So I'm all about that when it comes to Judkins. And again, I personally am willing to trade away some of these wide receivers because this next name I'm going to talk to, this is one I'm a little bit more passionate about than Judkins. I like Judkins moving next year, but this next one is the prime example of why you can go get another potential high-end wide receiver for really cheap. Okay. And I do say potential high-end wide receiver. I'm trying to preface that here a little bit. Keep expectations somewhat moot here. But the name I'm going to talk about next or last here, if you will, is Josh Downs, 24 years of age, wide receiver going into his 4th year with the Indianapolis Colts. He may be the single biggest winner of free agency that nobody is talking about. Alec Pierce signed his massive contract, re-signed with the Colts to keep him with Daniel Jones. And then they shocked a lot of people and traded Michael Pittman off to the Steelers, which coincidentally immediately shot Josh Downs into the wide receiver 2 spot. Now, again, could Josh Downs end up getting bumped potentially out in the draft? Potentially. I don't necessarily see the Colts taking a wide receiver. I think Josh Downs is I would assume they're confident in Josh Downs or comfortable with him as their wide receiver too. But even if not, he's probably going to take some of those slot targets that can slide into more opportunities in the slot. I know Pittman had some opportunities and some play there as well. So Josh Downs becoming the number 2 target getter in Indy is very, very intriguing to me. Obviously, right now there's a ton of vacated targets from Pittman, and they've added nobody new to come in and take those. Obviously, Tyler Warren probably takes a step forward. I think you're still going to have a good running game with Jonathan Taylor. And I think Josh Downs, I think it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him have a Wan'Dale Robinson type of season from last year, where we're talking, 100 targets and just volume galore here. And again, the current price of this guy, it almost feels like you're getting him for free. When I start naming off some of these prices this guy's going for, again, if I'm a Josh Downs owner, these trades are all rejected. But again, I pulled several of them that have happened today, and the going rate seems to be like the fantasy community is a little lower on Josh Downs than I am. I'm very high on him. I'm buying him for all these prices if I can do that. There's not a single one of these that are going to scare me off of him. So again, here's what's went down today with Josh Downs. Josh Downs straight up for Marshawn Lloyd, a guy who's done what in the NFL? Josh Downs' worst season best seasons he's been a mid-30s wide receiver. Worst he's been in the under 45. So he's been better than 45 in every year in PPR format. So he's a flex play at worst at week in and week out for you. Marshawn Lloyd is not that, right? Could he be that someday? Maybe. Jury's still out on Marshawn Lloyd, but right now I'm taking the proven commodity at again, only 24 years of age, and Josh Down, and I'm giggling my way to putting him in my lineup after that trade. Another one that I couldn't accept fast enough if this offer got sent to me, giving me Downs. Josh Downs for a 2026 middle of the pack second round draft pick. Again, guys, outside of the first round, those draft picks really are kind of coin flips. There's for every Puka Nacua, there's a Jahan Dotson. You're not guaranteed in the second round to get talent in these rookie startup drafts. Again, if you're telling me that I can get a Josh Downs proven commodity for a 2026 second round, who again is only 24 years of age, rather than having to take a dart throw in this rookie draft and potentially missing. I know as we start getting a little closer to draft night, it'll be one of those things where we're a little bit more excited about some of these players. I'm still not that blown out of the water by this recruiting class. Seems to be a reoccurring trend every year. We almost get the same thing. And this class is awful compared to the previous one, blah, blah, blah. There'll be some studs come out of this year's draft class, but I'm not that intrigued by this class yet. Obviously, landing spots are going to determine a lot. But Josh Downs, to me, again, if I'm getting him for the cost of a dart throw in the second round, to me, that's a win. I'm taking that one, and I'm walking away very happy. Same thing with this last one. I can't believe this is another one that went down. Josh Downs straight up for Tank Bigsby. If you've got Josh Downs and you're in a league and you want to sell him that cheap, somebody's going to buy him. Try to stick more to that 2026 second round price, because I think that's a little closer to his value than Marshawn Lloyd or Tank Bigsby. But again, for me personally, and what I look for when I go make a trade, Josh Downs is screaming value to me right now. I think if we revisit this trade in 4 or 5 months when the season's getting ready to tick back off and some news is broken out and things of that nature, I think the asking price for Josh Downs will be significantly higher than it is right now. I don't expect Alec Pierce to come in even after his contract and get 10 plus targets a game. I really don't think that's happening. I think he's got a lot of value as a field stretcher, but again, I want to say he only had like 50 some receptions this year to have his huge season. So I think there's going to be targets that have to be placed elsewhere in order to get the ball down the field. Yeah, 47 receptions for Alec Pierce for 1,000 yards receiving this year. So he was 100% a home run hitting field stretcher. You're going to get the ball into somebody else's hands a decent amount. I would be shocked to not see Josh Downs have somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80 receptions this year. And again, I just think he's going to be a volume guy that you can put in your lineup each and every week, and you're going to be very happy for it. And if you can do that for a mid second round pick or a handcuff running back like Tank Bigsby or Marshawn Lloyd, this just feels like a slam dunk, an offer or a move you can't afford not to go make. So again, guys, don't hesitate to go look into your league team, your league mates. If you guys are like my league, my home league that Bran is also a part of, we're going into year 8, excuse me. So there's some people that pay a little bit less of attention in the off season, but shoot somebody a message, let them know, hey man, I'm interested in this player. If they're not paying attention, if they're one of those people that are in NBA fans in the offseason. Then they go into baseball. Maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe you can slip one of these trades on under the radar and get somebody like Josh Downs for a Tank Bigsby or a Marshawn Lloyd, or again a Judkins for a Jameson Williams in a second. Stay active out there, guys. Trades that you make now that have low cost to you are the trades that are going to help you come playoff time in your fantasy leagues next year. Go out there, see what's available, see how you can make your team better. Even right now, when you're kind of like me and you're just kind of hanging out, you're not really that interested in things. Life's lifing. Take a look. Go see what's out there. You never know what kind of trades you may end up getting in your lap. You may be one of the next trades that I go look at on Dynasty Daddy and start giggling when I see how cheap somebody got a player. But that does it for me this week. Like I said, hopefully next week myself and Brant are back. We will be talking about doing some live coverage of the NFL draft for you guys this year again. I think this will be year 4. Brant and I have covered that. We may see if we can get the blood, sweat, and tears guys to jump in there and hang out sometime as well there with you guys. So stay tuned for some kind of an announcement on that moving forward. Otherwise, see you guys next week. Stay hungry and stay fat, my friends.